Welcome to Costly Conversations. I'm excited because we have the one and the only Maj Toure with us today. And if you don't know who Maj is, I don't know if I can help you, right? Because he's one of the most influential and impactful, I should say, Second Amendment advocates, not just in the black gun space, although he does have a strong focus on black and urban development in regards to firearms and the Second Amendment. But he's also a big deal in the overall firearms and Second Amendment space. He's dabbled a little bit into politics, has done some stuff with the Libertarian Party. I guess we can ask him what his current affiliation is. And he's done a lot in regards to actually building up the broader community of people that he lives around in regards to his city in Philly. So let's ask him a little bit about that as well. Thank you guys for joining. Just so you know, we are going to be simul streaming to multiple platforms for a few minutes. And then as we go along on the show, we're going to cancel those out. So make sure you go over to youtube.com/@costlypod to join us if there's not already a link available for you. And we'll go from there. And once again, thank you for joining. Let's get into it. Maj Toure, what's going on, brother?
What's up, man? How are you?
Man, I'm good. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday afternoon. People are excited that you're here, and I suppose the question is why? What have you done that's so exciting that people are just like, "What? Maj is on? I gotta join live. What's going on, man? What have you been up to?"
I think it's because I'm just in essence, I'm very accessible. I'm very down to earth, and just going into different facets of the gun community and not being able to completely be who I am in this space is in essence why I think people kind of relate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Am I too far back? Am I too far up?
yeah. I would back up maybe 2 or 3 steps if possible, but we'll yeah, we should that should be good. Um, Yeah, I would say you are pretty darn accessible. I mean, I think you pulled up to different spots and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be here. If y'all want to pull up and have a drink, hang out." I've seen that in the past, and that some people, especially somebody who I don't want to say you're controversial, but not everything you've said has been received well by everyone. Someone might say, "Man, is he okay? Is he a little bit of a death wish?" And I don't want to speak that on you, but that's kind of brave, ain't it?
Not really. It's Kanye West right now does not have security.
Yeah.
He lives in an apartment. He doesn't have a chef. Um, he doesn't move around with a whole bunch of. I think that this concept of I'm no longer allowed to become a human. We got a television show coming. I'm very very outside. I'm not gonna allow this. Currently, I'm like a B, maybe C list celebrity, so-called celebrity, right? It's very difficult to become very popular or famous just for Second Amendment advocacy. People that are usually activists and advocates um, have to die to get popular a lot of times. So if you talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, if you talk about obviously Malcolm X, you can't really get super famous in this space. You can get famous. Let me rephrase that. You can get famous in this space, but that fame does not necessarily translate into other areas. I remember years ago, one of the first times I was kicking it around in the NRA annual meetings with New War, and he was talking about how he takes his hat off when he doesn't want to be noticed. And so if
That's
it's
funny.
like if Jay-Z takes his hat off or puts his hat on, you're still gonna know it's Jay-Z. Jay-Z is a victim of fame. And so I do everything in my power to make sure that I'm able to maintain a certain level of normalcy. And I don't mean normal in the sense of I don't want to do abnormal things. I want to do very, very
Yeah.
powerful and solution-based, solutionary things. But at the same time, I'm not gonna not be able to go to a restaurant. Like, and if
Yeah.
and if everybody wants to hang out and get pictures after I finish eating or take the meeting, then it is what it is. But I'm not gonna be in the space Royce the 5'9" in Detroit at his studio, and he was like, "You say that now because you haven't." He was like, "You don't understand how like crazy people go for fame." And so a part of my approach is to try to make sure that I'm still maintaining a community-based engagement with the people from the communities that I work for. Because let's be very, very clear, I work for our communities, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to be in a space where I'm incapable of engaging my community as at least as much as I can help it. You know, like
Hmm.
Royce and other people were saying, you know, Eminem, even if he wants to, he can't. I think that it's a theory of mine that you can maintain and become more popular, still be who you are, still achieve wealth and success, and still move the way that you want to move. I'll say this last thing on that. I remember years ago, I went to a hip hop summit that Russell Simmons did years ago. And I remember when he finished getting off of the stage, like I performed at like Vote or Die and all of this other different things. But when Russell Simmons said, "Stop, everybody wait right here," so he could go to the bathroom, he didn't have security. And everybody literally stopped and waited. And then he went to the restroom and came back out and continued. So I believe that if you believe that you can't be a part of the communities that you serve, then you won't be. And so, you know, like the security thing, like people being like, "Oh, Maj, you tell people where you're at." I'm not concerned about the security thing. We all train, and we everybody knows what time it is, and you know,
Yep.
firearms owners are like not looking for trouble generally. So nah, that part I don't even really trip about. I more enjoy engaging with people and trying to understand their life and their perspective and hearing their stories. That's really, really dope to me, and I want to hold on to that as much as possible.
But I definitely appreciate you breaking that down. And that's something that's crossed my mind, guys like you, guys like the brother Corleone Noir, and others in the Second Amendment space. Some who you wouldn't be able to pick them out of a crowd just because a lot of us look super normal. You know, you talk about like Eric from Iraq Veteran 8888. He looks kind of like a normal dude. You might not recognize him in a Walmart, but if you carry a gun and you train, not that that should be the solution for some sort of verbal altercation, you should be able to have a certain level of confidence.
Yeah,
And like you said before, you're not going anywhere where you're like, dang, I have to carry a gun or I'm not coming back. Like that's not the move. That's not the attitude. And I can appreciate that as well. I'm going to do
yeah.
something real quick. So hopefully we can correct that right now.
Okay.
And that sounds a lot better, actually. So, one thing that I do want to do is just for people's reference, at a certain point in the show, we're going to start playing some audience questions. If you guys want to be a part of that, we generally extend that out to the members first and certain select people, kind of like our friend of the show, Tony Simon. He dropped a question for me. So, keep an eye out for that in a few minutes. So, Maj, let's talk about you because you're such an interesting guy. It's like you've told your story before. You didn't come into the gun space as like a standard, law abiding gun owner. You kind of led a different kind of life before you jumped into this thing. For
Yeah.
those who aren't very familiar, can you share a little bit of that story?
Yeah, I'm a Philly dude. You know, I in essence came into this Second Amendment space because I've always carried firearms. I think that carrying a firearm is a part of, you know, my guy Don Cord from the Don Firearms in Boston says, I might butcher his phrase, but he says, you know, carrying a firearm or something to that effect is a healing modality. And so, for protection against trauma or death or things like that, we all carry firearms. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not knowing how to do it more safely and responsibly is the area where we could all improve, or most of us in the beginning space can improve. And I think that that is how I kind of came into it. My understanding of firearms, like I am not a gun dude. I've said this for years, and everybody keeps ignoring me. I'm not a gun dude. I'm not a gun dude at all. That's like saying to me, it's a little bit rude for me to say I'm a gun dude when I know gun dudes. I know dudes that like Hickok 45. I've been at that compound. I know the level of intricate knowledge that he and his son John have on firearms, the history of the arms, the history of the maker. Like they could talk to you about Browning for like 6 days straight. And
Right.
so I don't disrespect the craft by saying I'm a gun guy. Gun guys go in. Comic book guys, Eric July is a comic book guy,
Hmm.
right? And so I'm not, I'm an enthusiast. But it's a tool for me. It's a tool to defend freedom. And what tools do I have around to deal with whatever situation that may be presenting itself is kind of how I look at it. Firearms for me in the Second Amendment are tools that we have in alignment with our human right that we're born with to defend our life. And so I've carried that thought process way before I came into the Second Amendment space or created Black Guns Matter, way before then. When I was in high school in Philly, I used to take tours of like Benjamin Franklin's print shop, which is still there in Old City. Take tours of, there's an amazing bronze sculpture of George Washington crossing the Delaware River. And getting these tours of Independence Hall, where the Constitution was written. And then at the same time, that will be juxtaposed with me reading the stories of Malcolm X, reading the stories of Harriet Tubman, reading the stories of Sojourner Truth, reading all of these, different people from different backgrounds that all pretty much in essence wanted freedom. And these are the things that I didn't have a distinction between the two. There was just different types of tyranny. The people in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s in America were fighting against racist tyranny. We're fighting against the government. No different than George Washington and them dudes were fighting against tyranny from, King George and the boys. And so because I was introduced into all of these things just by going to these places, I would trap, hustle, in school, and then I would go if I had finished off my pack, or if it was no sales there, I would just go into these places, and I would go to the places in Philly that traditionally people from our demographic wouldn't go. Like if you live in Miami, which I was there for the last few months, I really really enjoy Southern Florida. But most people that are from Miami don't go to South Beach. They don't go to Miami Beach. They don't kick it. And so there's opportunities in the places that we generally don't go. And I was inculcated in that very early. I've always had a love for history and all these other different things. And so I just got a hodgepodge mix of all of these things without somebody telling me, oh, that tyranny is different from this tyranny.
Hmm.
And so the common thread amongst all of these folks that were liberty-minded people was they all were strapped. The founding fathers were strapped. Even when they were being tyrants with the concept of slavery, they were still strapped. They made sure that they understood the importance of not making sure that the people that they were being tyrants to did not have arms. They understood that from, again, Great Britain. And so you can see the similarities and you can see the contradictions. And I just was a person that never um, would shy away from calling that contradiction. Yes, George Washington was an amazing commander in general, no doubt. Yes, the United States put in work to end the concept of slavery. However, chattel slavery was a thing, and a lot of those gentlemen did it. That is the
Hmm.
reality. I'm not gonna, and during a time when there were people like Thomas Paine that was like, no, you can't do that, and some of those guys did not own humans. And in the flip side, because the business of America was the business of America, there were some, very few, melanated beings as well that owned humans in America. So I never ran away from the context or the gradation of stories because my introduction to freedom and the concept of liberty wasn't in a school. It was me going around to different places, and it just so happened that I lived in Philadelphia, which is the birthplace of America. And so, and even down to the history of Philadelphia, during the Revolutionary War, Philadelphia was known as Rebel City. Today, the Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles are going to be playing here shortly, right? And like, there's a fighting spirit even amongst the sports teams here. So it's a very high energy, very liberty. Even with it being such a leftist city now, you can't erase the
Hmm.
history. It is so much history. I went to take a tour of Independence Hall um, like a few months ago, just to
Yeah.
get a refresher in that because I really enjoy stuff like that. Going down to Colonial Williamsburg, listening to those stories, and then again, making sure that you understand that I'm not going to separate the fight for freedom from any background, as well as I'm not going to call a contradiction. I'm not going to be afraid to call that contradiction. The reality is there's been very few men and women that I can say as freedom fighters, as they started to make their evolution, that did not have contradictions. And the only person that I can unequivocally say, once they made that cut, they wasn't on that no more. It was Malcolm. It wasn't Dr. King. You know, and I'm not saying this to besmirch the name of Dr. King or anyone, but you know, there's stories and rumors that Doc stepped out on his lady, and I wasn't there. I don't know the reality, but the
Right.
reality is there was no rumor or proof of that happening with the great late El Hajj Malik Al Shabazz. And so, while still going from a street dude to a jailbird to a scholar to a political activist to, you might as well even say an entrepreneur. The reason why the final call exists, it was called Muhammad Speaks. And that was a concept that Malcolm X created as far as the newspaper for the Nation of Islam. So you're talking about entrepreneur who was offered several times the ability to sell his people out for millions of dollars back then in the 60s and did not do it. And so we should all aspire to that level of loyalty and lack of contradiction. But saying that to say that's one of very many freedom fighters that I don't fault for their shortcomings, and whether that was captivity or whether that was racism or whatever that is, I look at the good that they did while acknowledging I'm not going to shy away from it. So saying all of that to say that's kind of like the long answer of how my approach into the gun space happened from a freedom and liberty based standpoint without having the general restrictions that most people would have as it relates to freedom fighters.
Excellent. So at this moment, we are going to go ahead and kill the streams going into Twitter X and
Okay.
also the Armed Atlas YouTube channel. So if you guys are there, it is going to redirect you to the stream on the Costly Conversations podcast. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And
Yeah.
guys, hopefully, you guys can come join us on the right channel and enjoy this conversation that we're having with Maj, because I think this is quite impactful,
Yeah.
especially the stuff that we're about to get into. And
Yeah.
Maj, so one thing I do want to ask, and this actually just kind of came to me, but let me just clarify. You're a father, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How does Maj Toure, the gun owner, the firearms advocate, the face in many ways of Black 2A, especially the more sophisticated urban Black 2A side. And I don't want to sound like I'm trying to degrade anybody by saying that, but I would say you're it if I want to say like dudes who are from the hood, but know exactly what they're talking about. And it's not a question, right? How does that Maj and Maj the dad, I don't know what your kid calls you. Where do they meet? Do they know each other? Do they live in the same house?
Yeah, they do meet. I try to keep them somewhat separate from social media, not because of security concerns per se, but I think social media can be a beautiful place, but I think it's also a very vile place. I was watching the Jay-Z and Gayle King interview a few days ago, and he discussed about how their daughter Blue was in essence subjected to adults criticizing her since she was 2, 3 years old for the type of hair that style that her mom had her wearing. You know, she was wearing her natural hair. So
Mm,
I think that it's important for parents to kind of block people from that. Um, I also think it's very important. You know, I've had times where hip hop artists have taken the bad section of my relationship with my child's mother, who at that time, not now, we have a great relationship now, um, was being very vindictive. And they've taken that and put pictures of my child on their social media platforms to in an attempt to like degrade me, and my child shouldn't be a part of that. And so I
no.
still when I run into main man, we going to I'm gonna invite him to a fade for sure. I just think that um I learned from that. It's like these people don't have the morals um that especially in like the YouTube space,
Hmm.
social media in general, but YouTube can be, as I'm learning and becoming more in an online person in the sense of creating content, doing interviews, like interviewing people. The social media space is very, very, it's like catty. It's like, and I don't say
Yeah.
this as disrespect to women. I say it as like, when I say dudes doing feminine things, I'm just like, eh. And so the lesson for me is that, yo, keep that separate. Um,
Yeah.
But as far as like my children understanding the importance of firearms and firearm safety, 100%. There's never going to be a time, like if you have daughters, your daughters you should test them. Hey, is a guy without a firearm, is he a valuable person to you, or is he potentially a liability? And these are the questions that I ask, and they're like, absolutely not. He's a liability if he doesn't have a firearm. How's he gonna be like? What if I need help? Like their mind is, what if we get into it and I need him to throw me an extra mag, and he doesn't have a gun, let alone a spare mag. And so, I think it's very important from a personal protection standpoint to get all of your children, female and male, involved in that scenario. I don't take the firearms conversation away from them. I don't take the conversation as it relates to um, the Second Amendment and freedom and honesty and not being afraid of the truth. I don't take that from them. I think that the challenge is to make that a part of them, without knowing that they're going into a world, especially if you send them to school, because
Hmm.
mine is homeschooled or whatever. But especially knowing that going into the world, you might send them to a school that is very anti-gun, and you have to
Yeah.
be kind of like you dress around a gun. You got to dress around your skill set and dress around your value system. So what state and what city, or are you homeschooling your children, or where you guys live, all becomes a part of it. And so knowing that, giving them these tools to navigate a lot better in that space while maintaining who they are and not being ashamed of it, but picking their battles and seeing when and if it's time to have that conversation about things. So I think those things merge very, very well. I've gotten better at it as I've become, more mature in this space, and I mean in the space of fatherhood,
Right.
as well as I struggled with something earlier today. I was FaceTiming, my daughter, and she's getting at an age where I was talking to it, with my partner, and we were having this discussion about she's getting at an age where she wants more of a separation. She wants to do her own like school type of run around type of energy. And I'm kind of struggling with that as it relates to on the phone and, FaceTiming. But in real life, I just take her and we do stuff and buy stuff and go places and have lessons and climb trees and things like that. So there's definitely room for it, and you, as a father, you should be figuring out ways to do that. And it transcends just the gun space; it transcends into the prep space. Like my youngest has a gas mask, and so these are the things that I advocate for people to get more involved in. 2, 3 years ago, maybe even 4 or 5 years ago, people thought I was a little bit tripping as it relates to this. But now, I don't know if you guys just heard, but there was a fighter jet that just flew overhead,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It
so
came through pretty clear.
that tells me this ain't we might be going into different directions. And so even with the United States government trying to fight a proxy war in Ukraine, bothering Russia, bothering China over Taiwan, and now stretching into this, maybe we gonna fuck with Iran too. Now the things that I've been saying for years as it relates to preparation, personal protection, having things in position and ready. Now some of my friends are like, yo, what's this homeschool thing about? Yo, what's this growing food thing about? Which is a good thing. And so it's not something that you have to separate in the sense of your parenting style. In my experience, it's something that you just have to give different tools to your babies for as they're out in the world when they're not around you. And I think if you can strike that balance, it becomes very, very productive.
Excellent. So you brought up something that's super interesting. You talked about how people are coming to you asking about like, oh well, a couple of years ago I thought you were insane for all the different like prepper
Mm-hmm.
type stuff, and prepper is such a
Yep.
dirty word. Now, yeah, I find that people like the term preparedness a little bit more. They'll be
Right.
like, well, I'm into preparedness. It's like, okay, sir,
Yeah.
calm down. It's not that serious. But Tony Simon of The Second Is for Everything, he actually dropped a question for us. I'm going to try to play it right now. Hopefully that goes the way I intended to. If you just stand
Yeah.
by.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
This is Tony Simon from the Second Is for Everyone podcast, Second Is for Everyone Diversity Shoot, and pound for pound, the largest gun bunny in America. I have a question for Maj about the Solutionary Center and the classes on self reliance that you're hosting.
Yeah.
I've, of course, been to your other classes, and I think they're amazing, the firearms related classes. But I want to know how the self reliance classes and the educational classes are going because I think they're really important. And I think that's another reason on another level people should support the work you're doing. So thanks a lot for answering the questions. And if anyone wants to support the work I do in New Jersey and other states, you can go to diversityshoot.com after you support Maj with his work. Have a great show.
Thank you, Tony Simon.
Um, I think that first and foremost, Tony has been supportive of Black Guns Matter from the very, very beginning. I remember badgering him about setting up like a Give, Send, Go or a GoFundMe at that time because I was just like, bro, you're doing all of this work out of
Mm-hmm.
pocket. You could, the community will get behind it. And he was super supportive from the very, very beginning. So I want to give him a huge shout. Um, the preparation work, I went down to Florida for the last few months to learn how to grow food a little bit better. Um, we have some land that we're getting in a different part of the country because and being a student of what happens in world history, after the world wars, grannies and like growing food saved America. Their ability to grow fruits and vegetables when supply chains were like messed up and the Great Depression and things like that was going down was miraculous to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in urban centers we can be doing that as well. You'd be surprised how little it takes, especially during the spring and summer, how little it takes to actually grow a decent amount of potatoes or some corn or something like that. I think that back in the day, a lot of us that, let's say people that are like maybe 35 to 50 remember when there used to be like a some sort of fruit or vegetable tree in the backyard and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. And so we kind of have been bred out of that. And so I think, Sankofa style, in order to know where you're going, you got to know where you've been. So I just look back at some of those things and then try to apply it in the right now. And so those classes are very, very important. um, but I don't think that people really understand how important it is yet in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Because we are kind of very comfortable. Even in 2020 when stores were closing, stores weren't all the way closed,
Yeah.
right? So there wasn't enough pain for people to really go, I got to do this. For me, it was, I can't get on this airline because they told me I can't fly on a plane. So for me, it was, I got to get an RV. For me, it was going back and forth because I wasn't wearing a mask and I damn sure wasn't taking a jab. So it was very, I understood very, very well, I can't do this way because I was not compliant. And I think a lot of time now, so many people have forgotten that because of the fact that they are comfortable. Everybody's pretending like the government didn't do tremendous levels of overreach into the free market and tell businesses they had to close. They had to open restaurants at 4 o'clock instead of 12 when they would. They told the American public, you got to take this experimental gene therapy or we're going to fire you. Everybody's very, very quiet about it. Everybody's also accepting this, which I think is wrong. Everybody's accepting this. Oh, we just didn't know. So can you just give us some grace? No, because you didn't give us any fucking grace. You social media people and pundits and people of that nature, politicians, were in essence saying we should go to jail. We should not be able to participate in society because of our value systems. And lo and behold, 2-3 years later, oh my goodness, those guys were right. We were right the entire time. And so I think that because people have been lulled back to sleep to a certain extent, they're still a little bit frustrated because the economy's so bad, because the Biden administration is so horrible. So they're not all the way asleep again, but they haven't felt enough pain, so they don't see it yet. Um, I mean, unless we're reminding them. And when we
Right.
remind them, like me saying to people, yo, you do remember in 2020, they told you on television, if you go to a hospital and you have life-threatening injuries, if you did not take or would not agree to take this jab, that they were going to not give you service. Do you remember that?
Mm.
That happened. And
Yeah.
so I think the people may need a little bit more pain, but that's fine because just like in 2020, years before when we had been telling people, yo, you should stash some ammo, you should stash some guns, you should do some training, I remember the day in March when it happened, when so many people called me in Philly when they was like, yo, the grocery stores might be closing. And they were asking me for ammunition. Huge shouts to Phoenix Ammunition, because I've given away a lot of thousands upon thousands of rounds of that because people was calling me for that. And I didn't damage the relationship, but when the truth came, those people came to who they knew had been telling them this the entire time.
Yeah.
And I just challenge everybody to not destroy those relationships, because if you're right, they'll come back around. If
Yeah.
you're wrong, nothing will happen anyway. So you're cool anyway. So they'll get it a little bit more in time, especially as it seems as, now we sending guys into Syria. First of all, dude's been in Syria for the last however many years, even though television's been pretending like they haven't been in Syria or Yemen or whatever. Iran, North Korea, Syria. Everybody knew this since Alex Jones was saying it however long back. But now it's looking like this administration is attempting to be the world's police and run 3 different wars off the tax dollars of Americans. And so the pinch is still making people a little bit uncomfortable. So we have an opportunity more so to talk to people about it and get them trained up in those spaces, as opposed to when everybody during the Trump administration was eating a little bit better because the economy was better. And so
Mhm.
I think it's important. I think that people are slowly coming around. But if something unfortunate happens, they'll come around a lot faster. And either way, we're just going to be prepared to service the community.
Yeah, I think you said a lot in regards to noncompliance. You said something in regards to not burning those bridges and friendships and relationships. Somebody, Alicia from Boom Chick Babe, once upon a time on Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, said, "Can you be friends with anti-gunner?" And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, I have plenty of friends who don't like guns. I don't have any friends who are like actively fighting, the my against my gun rights in the sense that they're pushing legislation and going and wearing the red t-shirts and demanding action or whatever it is they do. But the I suppose the question is we had something real happen, and a lot of the time a lot of the things that we talk about are almost theory, right? Like
Yeah.
the government could do some overreach and we could potentially go to war with China, and it's like it feels kind of far away. Like, oh, that
Yeah.
could happen in 2050, but not in 2023. Probably not even next year. But life is always like a hair away from changing drastically. And I hate to say it because I don't want to believe it, but the reality is it's that, like the people in Israel who are just kind of raving and partying and, having, what was it? Like some sort of like freedom rave. They could have been having a rave for free Palestine and nobody would have cared because they got drug away, killed, murdered, whatever it is. And I'm not here to make a statement about that. I'm really not. But the reality is life can change in an instant. And as things got close to changing for us, things did change. Grandmas died in the hospital alone. Pregnant women went to the hospital, had their babies alone because of rules. Um, like, how do you maintain those friendships? Like, what does that conversation actually look like? Of like,
I
hey,
maintained the friendship with the person that was impacted by the rule makers.
yeah,
I have no interest in being friends with the people that were instituting these policies. Fuck you. Like, I'm not interested. I'm interested in the people that you guys were trying to create the divide with. I know that they scared the general public. As a leader of men and women, that's my market share. You were trying to divide the market share. I'm here selling freedom. You were selling fear, which scared a lot of the people in my demographic. So the people in my demographic that were uh, impacted by that, they're not the enemy. The people that's the enemy is the people that was selling them the fear. And so for me, I just didn't let it happen. I just right now, um, again, I say this all of the time. My nana used to say, respect the devil. The devil is very, very ancient and smart. The tactics are very, very good. And if you respect the devil, you understand the power that that energy can have over somebody who isn't very, very competent and then confident. So because of that, I understand that that shit works. Media works. Most effective devil in America. And so I just go, they got caught in the matrix. I'll watch them with a 10-foot pole and be supportive if they come my way, and I won't even argue with them about the thing that they're arguing about. There's I don't argue with anti-gun people because I know that they're not anti-gun, meaning the general public.
Mm-hmm.
They've been sold a bill of false goods and they have no study. When somebody says, you know, gun ownership is racist, I know that they haven't read Negroes and the Gun.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they don't understand the history of gun control in America. I know that they don't. So I try to get to where can I connect with this person. I talk to them about saving lives as it relates to gun related deaths. That's what I talk to them about, not going, you're an idiot, so forth and so on. Now, if somebody plays this and their moves and their views are idiotic, I'm never going to separate where did they get that from? Where did
Mm-hmm.
they get that from? And it's a contradiction because if they were anti-gun, they wouldn't watch movies with guns in them. If they
Right.
were anti-gun, they would be advocating for police officers to not have firearms. You're not anti-gun. You're a victim of a matrix that has told you that only this special type of person is supposed to have a gun. That means you don't understand the Constitution, the framework of America, and the Bill of Rights to use it to your advantage. Again, this does not mean that the men that wrote these things were perfect. No, I don't care about that. I care about the document that is the guiding principle supposedly of this place, because I want to hold everybody to something on the paper. I want to
Yeah.
hold people to the contract. The standard needs to be held to, this is our SOP, and since this is the standard operational procedure, are you going by this? And so I don't have a problem not losing those relationships because the entire time I'm not playing chess with them. They're just pieces on the board. I'm playing against the puppeteer that is sitting behind all of those chess pieces. I'm moving all of the pieces on the board from my side too. I'm in essence not really on the board. I'm outside of the board trying to win the game.
Yeah.
And so I don't let my I'm not going to let you get your pawns all the way over to my side and add another piece to your side. I'm just not going to allow that to happen. If those pawns get over here, because they're pawns right now, if they get over here, I can't let them get a stronger piece off of me. If I got to get them out of here, I got to get them out of here. I got to block their moves. However, if they want to come over to my team, and they do that by asking certain information, there is no bigger resources, no bigger resource than man and woman power.
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose of influence, I may not have the most followers because I've been kicked off of social media 2 or 3 times.
Right.
I may not have the most followers, but I 100% have more influence than a lot of the people that have millions of followers. The people, at least in the Second Amendment space, the people that are very popular emulate what I do. A part of the reason why there's been such an influx, and I'm not saying this from an arrogant space, I don't want people to take it that way. We made urban black gun ownership cool as shit. Everybody didn't have to look military. Everybody felt comfortable getting in. I've watched people change their entire vernacular, the way that they dress. I remember the first time I went to SHOT Show, and I didn't go for a few years, and people were calling me like, "Yo, everybody here looks like you now," you know. And I'm not saying that it's like I'm Allen Iverson. It's like, yo, this is how we dress. And so, um, and knowing that I don't need to be on the board that same way in order to influence an economy. I
Mm-hmm.
can influence policy based on how I influence other people. When Black Rambo and myself jump on a Instagram live, and I for the last 5 years have been saying Maj Toure, the hip hop community's most favorite firearms instructor. And then because Rambo is doing fun shooting, right? Fun mag dumps are fun. That's not he not there. They're not there training technically and tactically. It's not what they're doing. They're having a great time having fun. That's no different than what Matt from Demolition Ranch does. It's just having a great fun time, right?
Right.
Blowing some stuff up in a safe and responsible environment. The reason why it's easier for him to get with Baby and Little Yachty, and now pretty soon he'll probably get with Meek and all these different people, is because we at Black Guns Matter made that, we pushed that through the door. So now rappers ain't afraid to be seen with guns outside of just the video. We're just talking about it. they go into gun ranges. Meek goes to Stoddard's in Atlanta. Our
I've been
biggest
there.
class was our first class in Atlanta. It was 500 people there in Stoddard's. And
Wow, that's a
so,
lot of people for starting. It's about to say that was
right,
packed out.
it was packed. We had to move people outside to the patio, to
Ooh,
all of the
yeah.
different rooms, all of that other good stuff. And so, saying this to say, my goal is a win. I'm a point guard. I'm a
Yeah.
point guard. I dish the rock. And I don't have to score for us to win a championship. I just have to make sure that my team members see the floor the way that I see the floor. That's the mark of a great leader.
Hmm.
Kobe can make Pau Gasol look like damn near almost competitive with Shaq, not physically, but on the stat game, because he's showing Pau Gasol how to see the floor. Never mind the fact that Pau and Kobe both spoke Spanish, so he can translate that to him in different ways. My job as a point guard is to get people to see that. And so these are the influences and the goals that we have, and everybody sees it. They may not acknowledge it, but everybody absolutely 100% sees it and feels it. Now
Hmm.
the next step is to make everybody that we've made be more comfortable with being themselves in this gun space. Now I want them all to become politically active. It's not enough to just go do the mag dumps. It's not enough to just do to get really, really, you get some promo codes and you getting companies sending you the stuff and you making money on YouTube. And I want to be clear, I'm not just talking about Rambo, because Rambo is doing it, right? It's not just that, or that you got a bunch of people in your city coming to get training. That only makes sense when it's coupled with the political component of now educating and informing these folks about civics, preparedness, and saying, "Hey guys, we got to vote in different directions." I've repurposed, just like I took BGM from BLM. I'm taking BLM again. Now it's the Black Libertarian Movement. We need most of the gun community to start voting independent and or libertarian, or pressing Republicans to actually be in alignment with the Second Amendment.
I'm with that.
And so this is the next phase of it, and this is the holistic approach to what we're doing. And I'm a leader. Leaders get followed. Us being upset that people are following us, and because I made a mistake like that years ago. I made a mistake of like being upset that people were talking like me, and Brandon Tatum, who I think is a 100% clown. I want to be very clear about that.
Yeah, I'm not a big
He
fan.
started changing his look. He was very, I wear a suit and tie and I'm
Uh huh.
prim proper. And I started showing up. He let his beard grow out. He started wearing his
Uh huh.
hat
Have
backwards.
backwards and
You know,
everything.
all of that. Had a little twist like he was gonna start locks for a second. And
That's
so
funny. I
saying
didn't
this
put that together, but now that you say it, I'm like, dang, that might kind of do look like a chubby Maj Toure.
yeah. And I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I was on a stage at CPAC right before President Trump. The thing that I'm just want to just really, really hone in on people is it's okay if people are following your lead.
Hmm.
Leaders get followed.
You said the
I
same.
made that mistake earlier on of getting a little bit offended by it. And it is what it is. People see themselves in you, and that's a good thing. Because I mean, in essence, that's why the gun community is getting so many new black faces in it. I mean, blackface in a good way,
Hmm.
because people people saw themselves in Tiger Woods, and then all of these folks see themselves in Arthur Ashe, see themselves in Venus and Serena, see themselves in Allen Iverson, see themselves in Stuart Scott from ESPN, who was talking that talk. Wait, God bless the dead, talking that talk on Sports Center early in the morning.
Hmm.
We got to be trailblazers. And so if you're one of the people that want to be leaders in any space, don't take that as a negative. Try to help people and continue. Huge shouts to guys like Mark Chopper. Huge
Hmm.
shouts to guys like Dev Trenchwork Chronicles from Kids to Kings.
Hmm.
Huge shouts to folks like Rhonda Mary. Huge shouts to folks like Glock Don't Lock. Huge shouts to folks like yourself. Huge
Thank you.
shouts to people that and I'm not saying all of these people started after me. I'm not saying it that way. I'm saying in
I
the
mean,
sense
didn't
of,
they though?
you know
Then
what I
that's
mean?
okay. That's okay.
Right, right. Even if they didn't, it's like it is what it is.
Hmm.
It's a like Deb tells me, has told me 1,000 times until I started getting good at it. Like, bro, you gotta get on TikTok. And I just was like, what? He was like, bro, the name Maj Toure and Black Guns Matter has been viewed over 1 million times and you've never posted on TikTok.
Wow.
And
That's
so,
a big deal.
saying it to say all these different energies and people from our demographic bring
Yeah.
something different to the table. And so that's just very important that we do that. And I know I want a roundabout way of saying it, but I wanted to make sure that I'm giving everybody they do their propers and giving some value to the people listening. If you're going into this space, you get to be yourself. I'm telling y'all, I'm not a gun dude.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for the newest. I don't own one revolver. I don't like shotguns. I like SBRs. I like cool handguns. I
Mm-hmm.
like my Archon Type B. It's a very, very expensive handgun. But
I
I
love
like
the
it because the
Archon.
bore axis of it is so low and it shoots so smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I
That
love that.
still doesn't make me a gun dude. That means
Right.
I just like how this gun look and shoot. And
You just got
so,
good taste. It's okay.
right, right. I might be a bit of a gun snob. My EDC's at VP9. So, like, my point in saying that is no one's going to, even if they emulate some of the things that they enjoy and see in themselves about you, no one's going to out you. And
Mm-hmm.
so just keep working. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to, and when I say you don't have to be an expert means we all on a journey. I
Right.
want you to be an expert in safe handling and manipulation of that firearm. That's
Mm-hmm.
just paint by numbers. Stick
So
to
yeah.
these rules, we gonna be good. But as far as like, okay, so what? You're not a part of the 1 mile out club. Like, and if you want to get there, just get there and journey and chronicle that conversation, and more people will come. You do not have to be this tactical all the time. I only wear camo. I'm gray man and all of the time, and you're not really gray man because I can tell who everybody in the room that got a gun on
Right.
them is because your fucking book bag is all of your shit is 9 line and 5. Like, come
Mm-hmm.
on. And so, saying this to say, you get to be yourself, and you get to serve the people that you want to serve, and that you're here to do and acknowledge.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I gotta say, and I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna jump into another question
Mm-hmm.
that was sent into the show, and we got some user questions coming in from some of our live viewers. Guys, keep firing those in because towards the end of the conversation, we're gonna try to get through those pretty quickly. But one thing that happened to me when I kind of first started this podcast. My dad found out. I didn't really tell him at first, just because I wanted it to be cool before I actually mentioned it to him. I want him to be proud. You know what I mean? And he found out, and all of a sudden he's sending me. I guess you did a hit on Fox, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you seen this guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I've seen this guy. What are you talking about? He's one of the biggest faces, voices, dudes in the two way space, much less black two way. I mean,
Yeah.
what magazine cover were you on? Was it Skill Set?
Recoil. I want to do
Recoil.
skill set. If somebody's watching this, Kyla Chronicles, I know she works something over there, but if somebody's watching this, I want to be on the cover of Skill Set magazine. It's not
Yeah.
for re-up. That was Recoil.
Yeah, Recoil. I mean, either one. Um, I'd be happy to even just get noticed, right? By a
Yeah.
freaking Recoil or Skill Set. Like that's dope, bro. And this is such a blessing that we got a chance to kind of have this conversation. I can ask you whatever I want. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
how is it 3 years later we finally, are having these kinds of conversations with people that are actually mentioned in the past with the Bruin decision up in New York? Like, how is it that you, Rhonda Ezel, and people like you guys are being referenced in actual like history, like modern day history? Things are changing for all of America and Americans at large because you guys decided, hey, let's do a thing. Like,
Yep.
let's work a little bit harder than the rest of these folks out here, and
Yeah.
that's freaking dope. Like that, you should be proud of that. That should kind of. I know there's a lot of crap that happens with Black Guns Matter, with the news, with Twitter, all this stupid stuff. But if you ever like a little bit depressed, just think, man, we made history. Like I could die
Yeah. You
today.
like
We're in the books.
right. It's like I'm on the cover of Time magazine with a bunch of amazing people, right?
Yeah.
Pro gun and anti gun people on the cover of Time
Hmm.
magazine. That Time magazine it's an exhibit that travels around the world, and
Hmm.
every time it's somewhere, people are sending, like, it's on the screen. It's these big cutouts. It was on the sides of buildings, and people will take pictures and send it to me in whatever country it's in. And so we're in the Supreme Court. Like, we are cited in the Supreme Court decision, the Bruin decision.
Yep.
That's just from doing work. I had a conversation with somebody. First of all, huge shouts to our elder and sister, Rhonda Ezel, who beat 2 federal cases in Chicago that you can now have gun ranges in Chicago city limits because of her work. She shouts to her granddaughter, Marley, too. I had a conversation a few days ago talking about, I have to make sure that I'm remembering that this happens because of the work. It's dope that you can create the content and put it on social media. That's dope.
Yeah.
But the content is based on the work. It's like Gary Vee. Gary Vee says, like, yo, I'm really busy as an entrepreneur running companies, and I just happen to have people around with cameras that are recording what I'm doing and the phone calls that I'm taking all of the time, and I get my content that way. We should all take a page out of that book. You know, I got my guy Antoine now following me around with cameras and stuff, whether I'm in the gym, whether I'm at the range, whether I'm here, whether I'm there, to create that content based on service. And that's the key phrase, service. Black Guns Matter, we raised a bunch of money over the years and gave it all away to service our community. And everybody should think about that. I'm passionate about this. I am by nature a philosopher and kind of like an instructor, an educator. I can communicate things very well and translate them. That is my skill set. So some of the things that are seem very complicated, I can draw and connect dots that people can understand from. And that in the firearm space where people are going to be nervous about it, it's 100% good to help people that way. And so that's my passion. When those light bulbs go off and somebody goes, oh, okay, I get it. It's called a slide because it slides back and forth. And then them connections start to go on where they recognizing when I say a magazine is a Pez dispenser, and they go, oh, I love that type of shit. I'm passionate about that.
The
And
aha
then
moment.
seeing that person confidently go from I'm nervous to be around a gun to I'm nervous to go in the range to they don't even hear the gunshots in the range the same way because they're having such a good time putting rounds on paper, right? Then them going from I don't know if I can carry a gun to like, yeah, I carry a gun. Seeing that process is super duper valuable to me. And so that's kind of like the overarching theme, which is just service and remembering why you in the game. I'm not in the game because there's amazing gun bunnies that hop in my DMs. They do, but that's not what it's for. I actually avoid all of those women, all of them. And so um that's dope, and it's cool when like I'm going somewhere and we want to get that, if we want to do that for the gram and get a cool picture with some cool people and all that other good stuff. But the overarching theme is service, and if you're passionate about it and if you're going to continue with it, let that be your guiding light more so than where somebody else is at or whatever. What's for you is for you.
Yeah, that's what's up. So I think this is a good time to transition to. I wanted to play the question that had to do with debates, but I think we're at a point where my guy who runs the Black Gun Owners uh, subreddit on the
Yeah,
old Reddit, he has a question. Let's go ahead and jump into that one.
sure, let's do it.
Hi, good afternoon. Was excited to hear about Armed Atlas having Maj Toure on his show, one of my favorite activists, and I'm excited that I can share a few questions for you. So my name is Daryl, originally from California, but I'm out in Massachusetts now, and just wanted to
Damn.
ask you these 2 questions. How do you address concerns about gun violence while advocating for gun rights within our community? And then the second one, kind of related to that, is how can the broader community support the goals and concerns of black gun activists? And before I go, just want to let everybody know I have a subreddit called Black Gun Owners. Armed Atlas, he's very involved with that. And just wanted to say that your content, Maj Toure's content, actually inspired me to make the subreddit. So just want to say I appreciate you and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Yo, that's dope
Yeah, it
for
is.
sure. So the first part of the question, as it relates to um, how do I address the violence component in our communities, where, to be honest, there is violence.
Mhm.
First, if someone's impacted by that violence, I help them heal from their trauma. I don't talk about guns to that person. I don't. There's no reason to have a conversation about guns. And I've had this. The British broadcast channel flew over here, and they had a sister and her son, and the older son was killed by violence, like actual violence. And the son, and this was at a range, and I wasn't trying to have a conversation. The son, if he wanted to work with some blue guns or some SIRT pistols, then he could. But it was really kind of like just talking to the mom about what that actually looks like, and how she was doing and how she's healing from that. um,
Yeah.
and trying to understand the pain that she would have as a mom who will not see her child ever again. And when she wants to come around to other things, then we wound up having a conversation about that. So that's the first thing, addressing the trauma. Secondly, um, once we've established that rapport, because it's always empathy first. Second is um, facts. After you know that I care, then we can get to the facts. Facts, if you lead with facts, facts can be very, very cold. And so empathy first, facts second, showing them that the vast majority of deaths associated with firearms are in America are suicides, actually. Mass shootings make up less than 1%. And a lot of that is street beef. And so then we say, and then if they're still open to that and saying, yo, that's around 30,000 deaths a year, if 15 to 20,000 of those are suicides, that means we got some trauma that we still need to be working on with a lot of folks. And so then when we start having, if we get to the conversation around defensive gun usages, then it gets there.
Mhm.
300,000 times a year on a minimum, someone uses a firearm. Most of those are non-lethal to defend life. And so now that we get to the facts, now we start talking about the third portion of this, the solutionary process, which is solutions. If you know that I care about you and your situation, which is empathy, and then you know that I know what I'm talking about to be in alignment with the, trauma that you have, and some, care and respect for that, and my data is going to assist in that. Now we can find out what that solution looks like together for you. So it's empathy, facts, and then the solution every single time. If you try to put one in front of the other, if someone doesn't know that you care about them, why should they care about what you're talking about? Especially if mainstream media, the devil, has convinced them that gun owners don't care about life anyway.
Yeah.
So it's always that step: empathy, facts, and then the solution. I think his second part of the question was, what was the second part of the question?
You know what? I'm pissed because I actually didn't write it down, and now
Oh,
I'm
it's cool.
struggling.
I just think that that's how I address it, because I think it was related to how I deal that with that in
How
our
yeah,
community.
how you go into the community and with the
Yeah,
solutionary.
when when
Yeah.
when you're doing it that way, that approach is pretty much undefeated. There's no
Hmm.
way, because if I'm sensing resistance to empathy, you're 100% not going to be open to data.
Right.
So I
And
just let
doesn't
it be where it is. I just understand how
yeah.
freedom works. They have the freedom to not want to listen to me at that moment. I do not damage the relationship. I lead from that place of love, empathy, go into facts, then get to the solution. I respect their right to not be at that space right now. And if they are in that space later, they come back around, and I still service that community. And that's just it. That's just the balance.
Yeah. So I would say that approach. I mean, we got the Ben Shapiro's of the world and all his clones of facts don't care about your feelings. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool and all, but guess what? Like you said, that lady's son, I believe you said, was murdered, and
Yeah.
she associates the tool, the firearm, as a specter haunting her,
Right.
and that's how she sees it. And she doesn't care that factually it was just a tool. It could have been a knife, it could have been a crowbar. Like, she don't care about that. Her
Nope.
mind cannot separate the thing. And we
Right.
have guys like, actually, one of my wife's best friends, her father was nearly killed. He was injured severely in a road rage incident. He didn't even know. Like all of a sudden, he's just driving along. All of a sudden, round to the back, and
Damn.
yeah, that's like a horrible way to go. Like, should he have gone? And now his daughter, she's a young girl going into college, and now the only thing she can think about is her daddy, her hero, was nearly taken from her
Yeah.
because just some guy with a gun. It's like what are you supposed to do with that? So, when I started getting into the firearm space, it was kind of an uncomfortable thing for her, knowing that I had guns in the house, and what does that look like? And we still haven't gone shooting yet, but I think now, being that we put together a body of work of me shooting safely, responsibly, and us continuing to have good conversations, not just about guns, because it's
Yeah.
not always about work stuff, right? For me,
Correct.
guns is somewhat work stuff. But you build those relationships and you lead. It sounds a little bit hippy dippy, but if you lead with love, you can get somewhere, right? And obviously that doesn't get the kind of views of Ben Shapiro destroys, or facts don't care about your feelings, the bumper sticker, or the freaking tagline on
You know what's crazy
Twitter
about that
X.
statement?
Yeah.
He abandoned it when situations happened, when it was proven that the Israeli defense
Hmm.
did wrong things. When people bring up, and I'm saying this with respect,
Hmm.
when people bring up the contradictions on any side of the Israel-Palestine situation, now all of a sudden feelings care. When people are saying we shouldn't be sending any money to Ukraine, no foreign aid, it's not in the Constitution, then because he's Jewish, now that we're saying we shouldn't be sending $14 billion to Israel,
It's a lot of money.
now feelings do care about the facts.
Hmm.
And so it's just but we are all, if we're not careful, we are all potentially prone to fall victim to this. That's why it's very, very important that we check our false ego all the time. If that's your standard operational procedure, I need you to consistently be led by that. If not, you become a contradiction. So again, it's not a knock to Ben Shapiro. I think the Daily Wire team has very authoritarian views lately. They're not above reproach or my critique, nor are they above redemption. But I think Matt Walsh made a whole 15-minute video about me when I said he was being very authoritarian. So like, they are at times, and this is an example of it. But like, you can't cherry pick. Yes, Christopher Columbus opened up amazing trade routes that did not exist prior to. That is a fact. That is a
Hmm.
fact. Christopher Columbus also was a murderous tyrant. That is also a fact. That does not mean I'm just hating everybody that celebrates Columbus Day, nor does it mean that I'm not going to recognize indigenous people to America. This is such as the nuance of life. And so if you are maintaining that, right? I've been to Africa a few times. Beautiful place. I see, the Congo, the Congolese people have been in a state of war since the 1990s.
Wow.
No one talks about it. You know
No.
why? Because China got their hand in it.
Hmm.
Because the lithium mining, the cobalt mining, that naturally resource rich place is under attack. And I think it's wrong. I
Hmm.
still don't want foreign aid to go there because it's not in our Constitution.
It's really crazy that you say that, because I mean, obviously you had a specific point you were making about foreign aid, but how many? I mean, do you remember when there was briefly in the news for like a day, there was like a ton of schoolgirls just kidnapped by a gang of militants or something like that?
Boko
And
Haram.
right. And like, oh man, that's horrible. So we're gonna send the SEALs or what? Nah, not a chance. They're
Now,
busy.
now, now, I believe that America has the ability to be Wakanda if we stop, and I say we, I don't really mean we, I mean a nation, but it's really the political class that
Hmm.
has hijacked Congress
Yeah.
and the budget. I believe that if we stop doing, excuse me, if we stop
Bless
doing
you.
a tremendous amount of that, we could be Wakanda. America was the strongest when our international policy was we didn't have an international policy really,
Hmm.
right? Pittsburgh was making 30% of the world's steel. Pittsburgh, the Steelers, were making 30% of the world's steel by minding
Wow.
our business. And
Wow.
so I want that for America. I do think that America has systemic issues.
Hmm.
Everything is not systemically racist, but there are some things like gun control. I think that we're far away from the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, natural law, and human rights. I think we have to get there, back there. We are we have a militarized police state that needs to go. I think the CIA, the FBI, the ATF are rogue agencies that should not exist. And so there's room to say that while saying I love my countrymen and my countrywomen. We got issues, but those issues is in house, and we need to work on
So
in our
many
house first.
people, they refuse to acknowledge. Like you say, like, hey, listen, we should probably fix this. There's a lot of areas where if you take like a raging leftist and let them share their points, every point that they ever thought, every point that they currently hold, there's a good chance that like a couple of those things I'll be like, oh yeah, for sure. Like we should definitely look at doing that, or I mean, we can't do it like that, but like for sure we should address these things, especially if we have the money. Like if we can send money to these things, if we can fund war, we can definitely, fund teachers, right? We can definitely feed the homeless. I forget who was it, Tupac, who said,
It was Tupac.
yeah, and now I lost the quote, but
We
um,
got money for wars, but can't feed the poor.
exactly. And
Yep.
I hate that he was right. Like I hate that he was right. But he was wrong in the sense we definitely could, we could print a couple trillion and take the poor and put them in some sort of habilitation center to kind of help them to figure out what's wrong. Is it mental illness, is it finances overall? Like, we could do all of that, but that's not gonna line anybody's pocket, so it won't happen.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of freedom, but I don't think anybody outside of people like us are concerned about people's autonomy and freedom, to a large extent anyways.
Yeah.
um, I
Hey,
do want.
let's
Yeah.
take some of the questions because I got a jet in not long from now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I will say real quick that one of the questions that was sent in via voicemail, and we need to make sure we address that one is, have you ever? This is from my guy D Green Gunner or Denera Green. Have you ever lost a debate, or have you ever felt like dang you didn't perform well in a debate, and how did you feel afterwards?
No, I've gotten so good at debates. If everybody hasn't saw my Vice debate where I went against this was years ago. This sister, she was the executive vice president of Gun Violence Prevention of America. I forget her name.
Hmm.
Destroyed her. The way that the vice voting situation worked was they would ask a question to Facebook, and let's say if there's 1,000 people that voted, people will vote yes or no on the question. Then we would debate the topic. She'd go, I'd go, she'd
Hmm.
go, and then people will vote again. All of the times, people were like, yes, guns should be regulated more. Then we would go, and then it would switch from 80-20 this way to 80-20 that way. The reason why I don't lose debates is because I'm right. It's not because I'm better at debate. It's the premise. If you take a position of anti-constitution, anti-human rights, you've already lost. You're defending something that the data and the founding documents of America are in opposition to.
Hmm.
So if you say, I think that you shouldn't have a gun to defend yourself from a rapist, you lost every woman in the room. And I go, I believe that that woman, if she chooses to, should have the tools to defend herself from rape. Why do you think that she shouldn't? There's no way to win. There's no way to win.
Hmm.
Then when I bring the data in and say the areas that have more safe and responsible firearms owners over 40 years. Matter of fact, this book explains it for 40 years. When I say, as licenses to carry and gun ownership has increased nationally, the trend of violent crime with a few spikes here and there for a few years throughout that 40 years, violent crime has went down. You cannot win when those people, they have to try to spin it. So they'll say the newest leading cause of death is guns. And then we go, no, it's not. You're adding 18 and 19-year-olds, and that's not a child. And then they go, well, we changed it. Well, you're wrong. Is an 18-year-old and 19-year-old, are they adults or are we not calling them adults?
You know, it's funny because they just gave somebody like 30 years, 17-year-old. So what is it, guys? What is
Right.
it?
And it's cherry picking. And somebody like me that's actually paying attention out here, you can't win. There and at best you can say, I don't care about the Constitution. Cool, you don't have to. Unfortunately, that's for your argument, that's the framework of this place. That is the supreme law of the land. So
Yeah.
I've never lost a debate. And not like egotistically. I'm talking about whether it has been a calculated debate based on votes on Vice, which at the time was a very leftist platform, still is, as well as whether there's a debate in. I remember some of the goofballs for the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. They put up a post because those guys, the guys that run that page over there, they're absolutely bigots. There's no doubt about it in my mind. All of their
It's kind of
actions
scary.
indicated.
Like
Yeah,
bro, like who hired you?
right. And so they put up a poll and they said, who understands liberty better for their Twitter followers? And their Twitter followers said I did better than they did. So I don't lose debates
I
because the
saw
way that I
that.
argue, it's impossible for
Oh
me to
man.
lose. First of all, my position is always freedom. My position is always freedom. The people that are arguing against me are advocating for authoritarianism. All I have to do is highlight your contradiction and you lose. So no, there's never been any of those. I think the mistakes that I've made is me, like I said earlier, more so me spazzing on people that I thought was trying to steal my way of doing things. And that was wrong.
Like
You know
once
what I'm
upon a
saying?
time you
As far as like
mentioned
a debate,
Corleone.
yeah. You're like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I've spazzed on him, and I don't, at the time I didn't know his pops was dying. I didn't know all of this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that he was working for Ackerman McQueen. I just didn't know as much about the back,
Right.
and I was fresh off of outside making BGM. And so it was wrong. And so those are the tactical errors that I've made. But even with those, and a lot of that is a part of the reason why I haven't been on certain platforms. I haven't been on Joe Rogan, I think, because of that. I haven't been on, other it's the political bullshit that I could have avoided. And even now, sometimes like Larry Elder, I think he's a clown as well, because of his actions.
Right.
He's
He
got me
said some wild
disinvited.
stuff.
Yeah, he's got me disinvited from things as well. But the reality is, I don't give a fuck about going to their parties and no shit like that. I want to serve the people in the community. So some of that stuff I don't really care about. But if I did care about it, I 100% see how it has impacted the reach in that regard. Part of the reason why I've gotten kicked off of social media is because certain people in the conservative movement mass reported my pages
Wow.
because they don't, this the backdrop
That sounds
to it.
like
This is
cancel
why
culture.
earlier, right, when we was while saying we don't fuck with cancel culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the part that I'm telling everybody. On one hand, don't engage in some of that shit because it doesn't really add to your overall mission, as well as because there's still going to be just politics. If your focus is your mission and you're passionate about it, the politics won't bother you as much.
Yeah.
And so those are the only real errors that I've made in these last 6 years or so, as it relates to that. And now I'm going to switch up here shortly, and I'm going to get even better at being more corporate and corporate, but still being myself, and taking it to the next level here come 2024. So that's what I would say has been one of the lessons that I've learned, and I could have done things better.
But now I know you said you're short on time. Do you have time for one of the one question that I do think that we
Yeah,
should?
let's take it.
Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. It's on the screen from Gun Website's question. Where does Maj see the two-way community in 2023 heading into 2024? Are we prepared? Are we ready? Lacking? And what path would you like to see the community take going forward? I think the second half of that's the most important thing.
I would like to see the community go towards, like, look, I'll be very, very honest, and this is selfish. We struggle to get financial support. All of our classes are free because of voluntary donations. The gun community spends a lot of money on guns. We do not put the same type of energy into our activists and content creators. Just like you got a Netflix thing, and I think it's like $20 a month now.
Yeah, pretty
You
much.
should put $5 a month to Black Guns Matter or the diversity shoot. Everybody should go over to the Second Amendment for Everyone, Tony Simon. Everybody should follow on Instagram, Simon Says Train. You should support those efforts, right? You should be supporting this podcast. So that's the area that I would like to see it taken a direction. For example, we have about $260,000 that we have to raise to purchase the building, as well as finance all of our classes for 2024. I want to see the gun community say, yo, in 1 month, we're going to kill this Black Guns Matter goal. Then the next month, everybody that donated to that is going to say, yo, everybody put your email list in, and we're going to kill the diversity, Second Amendment for everybody, da-da-da-da. Then we're going to go after and we're going to support FPC. I want to see everybody do that. I want to see everybody go over the next level training and purchase a cert pistol. They have given me hundreds of cert pistols. I have a beginning class that has hundreds of people, and people are using cert pistols, not blue guns. That's amazing. And
That's a big
so,
deal. It really
right,
is. There's so much
right. You know what
difference.
I'm saying? Them joints
Yeah.
is, so go over to nextleveltraining.com, put in Black Gun BGM as the promo code, get some change off that helps us. Go over to Phoenix Ammunition, use the code BGM, get some money off. I want us to support financially with resources on social media. And energetically, I want us to support the people that are actually doing that work. I want you, just like you support the Kardashians or whatever show that you're into, tweet out about, yo, this podcast is on. You know, you checking out Costly this week, right? Like, I want us to do that, as well as it is going in a direction of the political component, because everyone sees it. Everyone's like, oh shit, like, even though we have some progress made, there's 27 constitutional carry states. That's a great direction, right? But just yesterday, one of these federal courts, and I forget what state it said, oh, the AR-15s are not supported by the Second Amendment. Now, obviously, everybody knows that's wrong. However, that means we gotta get ready for a Supreme Court fight again. We need to support those organizations doing the lawsuits and getting politically active, so the general public is so pro-gun and pro-Second Amendment that a politician wouldn't dare present any type of legislation like that. That's the direction that we are going, and those are the directions that I would like to see us going as it relates to supporting. So, shameless plug, givesendgo.com/solutionary. Let's see, we got, like, today we said we're trying to get to $250,000 raised. That's halfway of our $500,000 thing. We need 109 people to donate $100 today. So everybody that's seeing this, go to givesendgo.com/solutionary. Follow me on whatever the social media platforms is. Donate $100. If we get 109 people to donate $100, we get to our halfway point. The classes are free. Y'all know I've been giving this money away for however many years at this point. You see the impact that we're doing. That's what I would love for our community to start to do. We got to get behind it, because Bloomberg has no problem writing a check for every town for $1 billion. That's what we're up against. So we got to make sure we're doing it that way.
Yeah, we definitely do. We've had other questions come through, but I do want to make sure we respect your time and let you head out.
How many we got? Let's rapid
We have
fire.
at least one that I think we got to hit, and the rest of them are kind of recycled stuff. So here's
let's rapid fire them. Let's see how many we
Strap
can
House
get.
Customs. What does Maj Toure think the keys to success are in spreading safety in our community?
Hammering people with the rules, signing people up for classes. And this is a thing that I'm gonna push a lot more next year, this end of the year, next year. I want people to we have weekly classes. They're $20, right? Online classes. I want people to pick those classes and set them up like football parties or fight parties or Super Bowl parties. Put it on the big screen, invite 10 to 15 people over, and just have like a Second Amendment basic class. I want to see people do that as we hammer in safety in those 4 basic rules, just safety, not nomenclature, not grip, stance, sight, and you can get to that, but start doing that. So that's what I would like to see people do. Basic firearms classes, parties like we do Super Bowl parties. What's another question?
Let's we'll wrap it here, but I do want to make sure that you get a chance to talk about your you said you're starting up a Black Libertarian movement thing. Can you mention that as we're wrapping out?
Yeah, everybody, follow me on Twitter, Maj Toure 999. Um, I'll put links up where you can learn about the Libertarian Party and you can join. When you do join, you join the party, there's a yearly fee or whatever. We get some of those resources to go towards Black Guns Matter. I'm a libertarian. I believe that the duopoly has failed us. The conservatives and the ideology and the Republicans and what they started as, especially for black people, was amazing. They're a far cry from that right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're benefiting from the duopoly. So we need to break that monopoly up a bit, go libertarian, go independent. I think that the Libertarian Party, being the third largest political party in America, is the proper direction to go, because even if you're conservative, some of those conservatively fiscal policies are what libertarians are about anyway. And we believe in the decentralization. The federal government has too much power, and we want to break some of that up. So the decentralization of it all is what the libertarians are about. And BLM, just we not waving a white flag on anything that's in opposition to our liberties. It's a black flag, And so that movement about us, if you're tired of seeing Republicans sell you out, because they are, everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows the Democrats are trash. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
We would think that conservatives or Republicans would be a little bit better, but they benefit in the same way. They
Mm-hmm.
agreed, outside of Thomas Massey, they just agreed to send $14 billion to Israel, just like they sent hundreds of billions to Ukraine after they were belly aching about money getting sent to Ukraine. So they're not in the interest of the people anymore, and until they course correct, we need to help them course correct. So follow me there on those social media platforms. I'll get the links up, but it's the BLM movement. I repurposed that. It don't stand for Black Lives Matter Incorporated no more.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know Black Lives Matter as a phrase, but the incorporation wasn't doing the right thing by our community. So I took that, and it's the Black Libertarian Movement. It's a black flag on anything that ain't in alignment with our liberty, and that's what
Hey,
that
man.
means.
We need something new. We need something fresh, and I think that's why a lot of these third party candidates are getting a lot of the hype that they are. People are recognizing that whatever we've been doing, it's not working anymore. Like let's just move on. Give me something different. So
Right.
whatever the Black Libertarian Party or Black Libertarian Movement rather can cook up, I'm down to listen, and I hope that everybody here and those who will listen later on feel it too. Real quick, where can people find you, just so we can make sure to lock that in?
Instagram, Big Daddy Toure, BIGDADDY Toure. My backup on Instagram, Maj Toure 999. Um, those are my personal pages. Official Black Guns Matter for Black Guns Matter stuff. Twitter, Maj Toure 999. TikTok, Mr. Maj Toure, MRMAJTOURE. Um, yeah, and pretty much that's it. And just email me if you guys have any questions, want to talk. Solutionarylifestyle@gmail.com. Me and the team get those emails. And everybody, guys, please, givesendgo.com/solutionary. Let's see if we can get 100 people that see this today, 109 people, to just donate $100. I know it's tight. I know it's tight. I
It's always
promise
tight.
y'all that
It's
I will
always
put
tight.
your
We can
money
do it.
to good use. I promise y'all it's gonna go to good use. So
Yeah.
thank you all for supporting. Follow me on all of those platforms. Y'all got any other questions? I'm gonna get on social media in this ride, and I'll engage y'all over there as well.
I appreciate you, man. And so let's go ahead and sign out. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, especially thank you to Maj. And guys, if you guys go show him some love, whether it's $5 or $100 or $1,000, I don't really care. Just make sure we're supporting the people who support us, people who take the time out of their day. They could be doing anything else, hanging out with their family, having a drink, whatever it is they're into, they could be doing it, but they're here. So let's make sure that we're supporting them as much as we, do your homework and then support, right? So, guys, my name is Aaron. This has been Costly Conversations. Follow me everywhere at Armed Atlas, at Armed_Atlas, all those things, and keep it costly.